Hey folks, my job makes me do a lot of driving, and so I've had a dash cam for years. Actually, I've had three of them because they always fail. Now, I don't buy the top of the line, but I don't understand why they always seem to fail the same way. They just stop functioning. You would plug them in and they would come on and then they would shut down and that would be it. That's all they do after a while. I'm on my third one. It's lasted almost 2 years, and I think I found the problem because it's not the camera, it's the micro SD chip, and we're going to go through the numbers and we're going to see why this keeps happening. Okay, I've got the chip in an adapter and I have the adapter in a desktop computer that I've got out here in the garage. Let's see what we've got here. Now, these are the files that it last recorded from the camera. As you can see that from the date, I haven't been able to tackle this project for 1.5 years, but let's see what happens if we try to reformat the chip. Won't format. Chip is damaged. And the same thing happened to the previous chips. The camera stopped working. I kept the chips. I was hoping that I'd be able to use them for some other use, and then realized later the chips were damaged as well, and I assumed the camera did it. But it's not, it's the other way around. The chips were damaged, the cameras are probably fine. Now, as people that work with solid state memory know, there is a finite amount of time that you can record and erase and record again on solid state memory or flash memory. This is called program cycles. Now, if you look it up, the numbers will be different depending upon where you read it. They usually say that a high-end chip, say one you would use for an expensive camera, might last 100,000 cycles before it starts to degrade. But that's not what this is. This is a standard SanDisk chip like anybody would buy. It's not super cheap, it's not super expensive, it's just middle of the road like you would normally buy. These chips do not last 100,000 cycles. The numbers for them are a little closer to, at least stated, 10,000 cycles. But I'm going to show you that's not exactly true. Okay, let's do some math. I'm going to be generous and say the chip lasted a full 2 years. That's 365 days times 2. 730. Now, I would say sometimes I don't drive at all, just like anybody else. Sometimes I don't drive at all, sometimes I drive 10 hours a day. The weekends, very rarely, except for going to the store. So I'm going to say that I drive an average of 1 hour a day, every single day. So it's 730 hours. Now the chip at 32 gig, it is set up for, at the resolution that it is 3 minutes per file before it starts a new file. That way, if you need to look for a file, it's easier. Instead of digging through one giant file, it lets you see a whole bunch. Now, a 32 gig chip with 3-minute files at this resolution holds 105 files. That means this chip holds 315 minutes of time before a new cycle begins. That's 5.25 hours. So 730 divided by 5.25. 139 cycles that chip had before it began to degrade. That's a whole lot less than 10,000. Now, I can even be more generous and say I drove 2 hours a day, and that's quite a bit. But still, that's not even 300. Nowhere near 10,000. And there's a reason for that. You see, when they're talking about program cycles, they're talking about random program cycles. A picture goes in here, a little video comes off there. You put in a file, you take off a file, but just like in a hard drive, all that stuff is in different spots. And so you're not treading on the same carpet over and over. But with a camera, with a dash cam and its chip, it's kind of a unique situation. That camera records on that chip from beginning to end, fills it, and then starts all over again. That chip is completely used in every cycle. So the cycles are much less than you would expect. Now, the only thing I can think of that would help it is, first, you could buy a more expensive chip. They are right. The ones that are rated for higher cycles should last longer. And depending upon your camera, get a chip that is as large as the camera will accept. Read the instruction, because my little cheap camera says a 32 gig is the biggest I can take, so it's the biggest I've got in there. But the larger the chip, the more it can hold before it has to begin another cycle, so it should last longer. But I've got a new chip in the camera right now. I've drove around, it's lasted, it's worked perfectly just like it did when it was brand new. And so I hope that solves it, and I hope I maybe help somebody out there with the same problem. I hope you liked the video. Catch you next time.